Mental strength isn't something you're born with, it's something you build day by day through the choices you make and the way you respond to life's challenges. In a world that's constantly demanding more from us, where distractions and pressures seem to multiply by the hour, the need for inner resilience has never been greater. But here's the thing, the tools to cultivate that strength aren't new. They've been around for centuries, tested by some of history's greatest minds. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this and you will find strength." That's the essence of Stoicism, a philosophy that teaches us how to thrive not by avoiding difficulties, but by mastering how we face them. In this video, we're going to explore 30 practical ways to build mental strength through Stoic practices. These aren't abstract ideas or lofty theories, they're actionable steps you can start using today to train your mind, strengthen your resilience, and take control of your inner world. Whether you're dealing with stress, uncertainty, or setbacks, these Stoic principles can help you stay grounded and focused. So, if you're ready to transform the way you think, feel, and act, let's dive in, because the journey to mental strength begins with a single step. How much of your day is spent worrying about things you can't change? Whether it's a traffic jam, a rude comment, or the outcome of a project at work, we often pour energy into situations that are completely outside our influence. This is where one of Stoicism's most powerful tools comes into play, the dichotomy of control. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most famous teachers, put it simply, "Some things are within our power while others are not." The key to mental strength, he argued, lies in understanding the difference between the two. Imagine this, you're at work and a colleague takes credit for your idea during a meeting. You feel frustrated, maybe even angry, but here's the question, can you control their actions? No. What you can control is how you respond. Do you let the frustration consume you, or do you choose to focus on what's within your power, your own attitude, your next steps, and how you communicate moving forward? This is the essence of the dichotomy of control. It's not about ignoring the world around you. It's about redirecting your energy toward what truly matters. Think about it. How often do we stress over outcomes we can't change? The weather, other people's opinions, or even global events. These are all things that lie beyond our sphere of influence. Yet, when we fixate on them, we drain ourselves of the energy needed to tackle what we can change, our own actions, decisions, and mindset. So, here's a challenge for you. What's one thing you're currently worrying about that's outside your control? Take a moment to reflect. By identifying what's beyond your influence, you can start to shift your focus to what truly matters, your own choices and responses. This small but profound shift can be the first step toward building mental resilience and reclaiming your peace of mind. How do you usually start your mornings? For many of us, it's a rush, grabbing coffee, checking notifications, or diving straight into the day's demands. But what if you could begin your day with intention, setting the tone for everything that follows? This is where Stoic morning reflection comes in, a practice that has been used for centuries to cultivate mental strength and clarity. Take Marcus Aurelius, for example. As one of the most powerful men in the Roman Empire, he faced immense challenges daily. Yet he started each morning with a moment of reflection, writing in his journal to remind himself of his values and prepare for the obstacles ahead. His famous work, Meditations, is essentially a collection of these morning reflections, proof that even a busy emperor found time to ground himself before the day began. So, what does a Stoic morning reflection look like? It doesn't have to be complicated. One simple practice is journaling. Spend just 5 minutes writing down your intentions for the day, focusing on what you can control and how you want to respond to challenges. Or you might take a moment to set a daily mantra, a phrase that aligns with your values and guides your actions. The key is to create space for self-awareness before the noise of the day takes over. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, once said, "Every day you should say to yourself, I have been admitted to a great theater and my life is a role." This idea of self-awareness is at the heart of morning reflection. It's about stepping back, assessing your role in the day ahead, and deciding how you'll show up not as a reaction to external events, but as a deliberate choice. Now think about your own mornings. What small changes could you make to bring more purpose to that time? Could you carve out a few minutes to reflect, plan, or simply breathe? By starting your day with intention, you're not just preparing for what's to come, you're actively shaping how you'll experience it. After a long, hectic day, it's easy to feel like the hours slip through your fingers, leaving you with little to show for them. Maybe you faced a tough meeting, struggled to stay patient with a loved one, or simply felt drained by the constant demands of life. This is where the Stoic practice of the evening review comes in, a powerful tool to help you reclaim clarity and purpose even on the most chaotic days. Seneca, one of Stoicism's most influential thinkers, made this practice a cornerstone of his daily routine. Each night, he would take time to reflect on his actions, decisions, and emotions, asking himself questions like, "Did I act with virtue today? Where did I fall short?" This wasn't about self-criticism, it was about honest self-examination and growth. By reviewing his day, Seneca could identify patterns, acknowledge his progress, and set intentions to improve. So, how can you apply this practice in your own life? Start by carving out a few quiet moments before bed. Think about what went well. Did you handle a difficult situation with calmness? Did you show kindness when it wasn't easy? Celebrate those moments. Then, gently consider where you might have stumbled. Maybe you lost your temper or let fear dictate a decision. The goal isn't to dwell on mistakes, but to learn from them, so you can approach tomorrow with greater wisdom. Epictetus once said, "The first and greatest task of the philosopher is to test and separate appearances, and to act on nothing that is untested." In other words, take a step back and examine your day with curiosity, not judgment. What assumptions or reactions might have clouded your judgment? What can you do differently next time? Try this practice for just 1 week. Jot down your reflections in a journal or simply take a few minutes to think them through. You might be surprised at how quickly it helps you gain perspective, reduce stress, and feel more in control of your life. After all, the evening review isn't just about looking back, it's about moving forward with intention and clarity. Your emotions don't have to control you. This is one of the core principles of Stoic philosophy, and it's called cognitive detachment. It's about creating a mental space between what happens around you and how you feel about it. The Stoics believed that while we can't always control external events, we can control how we interpret and respond to them. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, often emphasized that it's not the events themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. By observing our emotions without letting them take over, we gain the power to choose how we act. Think about the last time someone criticized you. Maybe it was a comment at work or a harsh remark from a friend. In that moment, it's easy to feel hurt, defensive, or even angry. But what if, instead of reacting immediately, you paused and asked yourself, "Why does this bother me? Is this criticism true, or is it just someone's opinion?" This small shift in perspective can help you detach emotionally and respond with clarity rather than impulsivity. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." It's a reminder that inner calm comes from understanding that your emotions are yours to manage, not something dictated by others. So take a moment to reflect. Think about a recent situation where your emotions got the better of you. What would it look like to approach it with a sense of detachment? How might that change your response? By practicing this Stoic approach, you're not ignoring your feelings. You're simply choosing not to let them dictate your actions. It's a skill that takes time to develop, but over time, it can transform how you navigate life's challenges. When was the last time you truly paused to appreciate what you have? In a world that often feels like it's pushing us to want more, the Stoics offered a powerful counterbalance: gratitude. They believed that focusing on what we already possess rather than what we lack is a direct path to contentment. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, often wrote about the importance of gratitude, reminding us that it's not about having everything but about recognizing the value in what we do have. Imagine waking up each morning and taking a moment to list just 3 things you're grateful for. It could be something as simple as a warm cup of coffee, a kind word from a friend, or even the opportunity to learn and grow. This small daily practice, rooted in Stoic wisdom, can have a profound effect on how we see the world. Epictetus once said, "He is a wise man who does not grieve for the things which he has not, but rejoices for those which he has." This shift in perspective, from longing to appreciation, can transform not just how we feel, but how we live. Gratitude doesn't erase life's challenges, but it reframes them. It helps us see the good that exists alongside the difficult, and it reminds us that even in hardship, there's something to be thankful for. When we make this a habit, we begin to notice how it subtly shifts our mindset. We become less focused on what's missing and more attuned to the abundance that's already present in our lives. So, why not start today? Take a moment to reflect on what you're grateful for and see how it changes the way you approach your day. Stoicism teaches us that obstacles aren't just roadblocks, they're the path itself. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The impediment to action advances action." What stands in the way becomes the way. This idea might sound counterintuitive at first, but when we shift our perspective, we begin to see adversity not as something to avoid, but as a powerful teacher. Every challenge, no matter how difficult, carries with it the potential for growth, resilience, and transformation. Take Seneca, for example. When he was exiled to Corsica by Emperor Claudius, he didn't let despair consume him. Instead, he used that time to reflect, write, and deepen his understanding of Stoic philosophy. What could have been a crushing blow became a period of profound personal development. In the same way, think about a modern-day scenario like losing a job or facing a major career setback. It's easy to feel defeated in those moments, but what if we saw them as opportunities to pivot, learn new skills, or even discover a path we might not have considered otherwise? Epictetus put it perfectly when he said, "Difficulties are things that show what men are. Hardship reveals our character and tests our ability to adapt." It's not about pretending everything is fine. It's about recognizing that even in the toughest moments, we have the power to choose how we respond. So, what's a challenge you're facing right now? Maybe it's a personal struggle, a professional hurdle, or even an internal battle with doubt or fear. How might this obstacle be shaping you, even if it doesn't feel like it right now? By embracing adversity, we don't just endure it, we grow through it, and that's where true mental strength begins. Have you ever found yourself lying awake at night, your mind racing with thoughts about what might happen tomorrow? Maybe it's a big presentation at work, a difficult conversation you're dreading, or even just the endless to-do list that seems to grow by the hour. It's natural to worry about the future, but the Stoics remind us that living in the present moment is where true peace lies. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, put it simply, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." In other words, much of our anxiety comes from projecting ourselves into a future that hasn't even happened yet, and may never happen at all. The Stoics believed that the present moment is all we truly have. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." It's a powerful reminder of how fleeting time really is. If we spend our days worrying about what's to come or dwelling on the past, we miss the opportunity to fully experience life as it unfolds. The present is where life happens, and it's the only place where we have any real control. So how can we practice this Stoic principle in our daily lives? One practical exercise is to cultivate mindfulness through simple grounding techniques. For example, take a moment to focus on your breath. Feel the air moving in and out of your body. Notice the sensations around you, the texture of the chair you're sitting on, the sounds in the room, the light falling on your hands. This kind of mindful awareness can help anchor you in the present, pulling your attention away from the endless chatter of worries and what-ifs. Another approach is to pause throughout the day and ask yourself, where is my mind right now? Are you fully engaged in what you're doing, or is your attention scattered across past regrets or future anxieties? Each time you catch your mind wandering, gently bring it back to the present. Over time, this practice can help you develop a stronger sense of presence and focus. Living in the present doesn't mean ignoring the future or neglecting responsibilities. It's about recognizing that the future is shaped by the actions we take right now. By staying grounded in the present, we can make clearer decisions, respond to challenges more effectively, and find greater contentment in the simple moments of life. As Marcus Aurelius wisely observed, the present is all that they can give up, since that is all you have, and what you do not have, you cannot lose. So why not start today? Take a deep breath, look around you, and remind yourself, this moment is where life is happening. Don't let it slip away. When was the last time you stepped out of your comfort zone? Think about it for a moment. Comfort feels safe, but it's also where growth stagnates. The Stoics understood this deeply, which is why they practiced something called voluntary discomfort. It's about intentionally choosing to endure small hardships to prepare yourself for life's inevitable challenges. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, would often put himself through temporary discomfort like wearing thin clothing in cold weather or eating simple meals, not because he enjoyed it, but because he knew it strengthened his resilience. Here's the idea: by willingly facing discomfort, you train your mind to remain calm and composed when life throws unexpected difficulties your way. It's like building a muscle. You don't wait for a crisis to test your strength, you prepare for it in advance. Epictetus put it perfectly: difficulties are things that show what men are. In other words, it's through challenges, even self-imposed ones, that we discover what we're truly capable of. So how can you start practicing voluntary discomfort in your own life? It doesn't have to be extreme. Small, consistent challenges can make a big difference. Try taking a cold shower instead of a warm one, or skip a meal and fast for a day. These acts might seem trivial, but they teach your mind to endure discomfort without resistance. The goal isn't to suffer for the sake of suffering, it's to remind yourself that you can handle more than you think. Take a moment to reflect. What's one small discomfort you could embrace today? Maybe it's turning off the heater on a chilly morning or taking the stairs instead of the elevator. Whatever it is, commit to it, and afterward, pause to reflect on how it felt. Did it make you anxious at first? Did you find a sense of pride in pushing through? These experiences, no matter how small, are stepping stones to building mental strength. The beauty of this practice is that it's entirely within your control. You don't need to wait for life to test you. You can start preparing now. And when you do, you'll find that the challenges you once feared become opportunities to prove your resilience. In a world that never seems to stop talking, whether it's the buzz of notifications, the endless stream of updates, or the constant chatter in our own minds, it's easy to feel overwhelmed. This is where the Stoics offer a profound counterpoint: the practice of cultivating inner silence. For them, stillness wasn't just a luxury, it was a necessity for clarity and strength. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, often reflected on the importance of retreating into himself, away from external distractions to find peace and perspective. He wrote in his Meditations, "Nowhere can a man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." The Stoics understood that inner silence isn't about escaping the world, but about creating a space where you can hear your own thoughts clearly. In our modern lives, this might mean carving out time for practices like meditation, where you sit with your breath and let the noise settle. Or it could be as simple as spending time in nature, away from screens and schedules, allowing the rhythm of the natural world to slow your mind. Seneca, another Stoic thinker, put it beautifully when he said, "The person who has learned to be alone with themselves is never alone." This solitude isn't loneliness, it's an opportunity to reconnect with yourself, to reflect and to recharge. So, how can you bring more of this stillness into your daily routine? It doesn't require hours of silence or a remote mountain retreat. Start small. Maybe it's 5 minutes in the morning before the day begins, or a quiet walk in the evening without your phone. Notice how these moments of stillness can help you step back from the chaos and regain focus. Ask yourself, where in your life can you create more mental space? What would it feel like to let the noise fade, even for a little while? The Stoics remind us that true strength comes not from constant action, but from the ability to pause, reflect, and find peace within. Saying no can be a form of self-respect. It's not about depriving yourself, but about choosing what truly matters over fleeting pleasures. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus, for instance, taught that mastering our desires is key to building mental strength. He believed that by practicing self-denial, we train ourselves to resist impulses and focus on what's within our control. It's a way of reclaiming our power, one small decision at a time. Think about modern life. How often do we give in to the urge to scroll endlessly on our phones or buy something we don't really need? These moments might seem harmless, but they add up. Each time we resist, though, we strengthen our willpower. Seneca, the Stoic philosopher, warned about the dangers of excess, saying, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." Excess doesn't just drain our resources, it weakens our resolve and distracts us from what truly matters. So, where can you start? Maybe it's setting a timer for your screen time or passing on that extra cup of coffee. It doesn't have to be drastic. Even small acts of self-denial can build discipline over time. The goal isn't to punish yourself, but to create space for what aligns with your values. What's one area in your life where you can practice saying no? It could be as simple as skipping dessert or pausing before making an impulsive purchase. Every time you choose restraint, you're not just saying no to something, you're saying yes to a stronger, more intentional version of yourself. What does it mean to live a virtuous life? For the Stoics, virtue wasn't just a lofty ideal, it was the foundation of a meaningful existence. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's most famous practitioners, believed that true happiness came from aligning your life with 4 core virtues: wisdom, courage, justice, and temperance. Wisdom helps us see the world clearly and make sound decisions. Courage gives us the strength to face challenges without fear. Justice ensures we treat others with fairness and respect. And temperance teaches us to exercise self-control, avoiding excess in all things. These virtues weren't abstract concepts to the Stoics, they were practical tools for navigating life's complexities. Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." This simple yet profound statement reminds us that virtue begins with intention. It's not enough to admire these qualities, we must actively cultivate them through our choices and actions. For instance, when faced with a difficult decision, you might ask yourself, what would wisdom look like here? Or when confronting a fear, you could reflect on how courage might guide your response. By framing your daily actions through the lens of these virtues, you begin to live more intentionally and authentically. But how do you start? One way is to set small, achievable goals that align with these principles. Maybe it's practicing patience during a frustrating moment or choosing honesty in a situation where it might be easier to lie. Over time, these small acts accumulate, shaping your character and strengthening your resolve. The Stoics believed that virtue wasn't just about grand gestures, it was about the everyday choices that define who we are. Take a moment to reflect. How can you embody these virtues in your own life? What's one area where you could practice more courage, wisdom, justice, or temperance? By focusing on virtue, you not only improve yourself but also contribute to a more harmonious world. After all, as the Stoics taught, a life rooted in virtue is a life well lived, no matter the external circumstances. Have you ever found yourself in a heated argument with a friend, only to realize later that the whole conflict could have been avoided if you'd just taken a moment to see things from their perspective? It's a situation we've all faced, and it's exactly where Stoic philosophy offers profound guidance. Stoicism, often misunderstood as being about emotional detachment, actually places a strong emphasis on empathy, on truly understanding the thoughts, feelings, and motivations of others. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, frequently reminded his readers that compassion isn't a weakness, it's a strength. He believed that by stepping into someone else's shoes, we not only diffuse tension but also grow in wisdom and connection. So, how can you start practicing empathy in a meaningful way? One powerful exercise is active listening. Instead of planning your response while someone is speaking, focus entirely on their words. Notice their tone, their body language, and the emotions behind what they're saying. Another approach is to consider the motivations driving someone's actions. When someone behaves in a way that frustrates you, ask yourself, what might they be going through? What fears or desires are influencing their choices? These small shifts in perspective can transform how you relate to others. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once wrote, "What injures the hive injures the bee." This simple yet profound statement reminds us of our shared humanity. When we act with empathy, we're not just helping others, we're strengthening the bonds that connect us all. So, the next time you find yourself in a challenging interaction, pause for a moment. Try to see the world through their eyes. You might just discover that empathy isn't just a gift to others, it's a gift to yourself as well. Everything changes, and that's okay. It's a simple truth, but one that can be difficult to fully accept. The Stoics, however, saw impermanence not as something to fear, but as a fundamental part of life to embrace. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, often reminded his students that nothing lasts forever. Not our possessions, our circumstances, or even our relationships. And while that might sound unsettling at first, there's a profound freedom in learning to let go. Think about the changing seasons. Each year, the leaves fall, the snow melts, and the flowers bloom again. Nature doesn't resist this cycle, it flows with it. In the same way, Stoicism teaches us to align ourselves with the natural rhythms of life. When we cling too tightly to what's temporary, whether it's a job, a relationship, or even a particular phase of life, we create unnecessary suffering. But when we accept that change is inevitable, we can adapt more gracefully and find peace in the present moment. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, put it beautifully when he wrote, "You could leave life right now." Let that determine what you do and say and think. It's a powerful reminder of how fleeting life truly is. Instead of fearing this impermanence, we can use it as motivation to live more intentionally. What would you do differently today if you truly understood that nothing lasts forever? How might this perspective shift the way you approach challenges or even your daily routines? Stoicism doesn't ask us to ignore the pain of loss or pretend that change is easy. Instead, it invites us to see impermanence as a teacher. When we lose a job, for example, it can feel like the end of the world. But Stoic philosophy encourages us to ask, what can this moment teach me? Is there an opportunity here to grow, to explore new paths, or to reevaluate what truly matters? By reframing impermanence as a natural and even necessary part of life, we can find strength in the face of uncertainty. So take a moment to reflect. What in your life feels permanent right now, and how might your perspective shift if you truly embrace the idea that nothing lasts forever? It's not about giving up or becoming indifferent, it's about finding peace in the ebb and flow of life. When we stop resisting change, we open ourselves to a deeper sense of resilience and gratitude, and that, in itself, is a form of mental strength. How often do you pause to acknowledge your limitations? It's not an easy question, but it's one the Stoics believed was essential for personal growth. Humility, in their view, wasn't about diminishing yourself. It was about seeing yourself clearly, free from the distortions of ego or pride. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, often spoke about the dangers of self-importance and the power of humility. He saw it as a pathway to wisdom, a way to remain grounded even in the face of success or praise. Think about it. When we refuse to acknowledge our flaws or mistakes, we close ourselves off to growth. Humility, on the other hand, opens doors. It allows us to learn from others, to accept feedback without defensiveness, and to recognize that we don't have all the answers. One powerful practice the Stoics recommended is actively seeking feedback, asking others for honest input on how we can improve. It's not always comfortable, but it's incredibly revealing. Another simple yet profound habit is admitting mistakes. Instead of hiding behind excuses or blaming others, owning up to our errors teaches us resilience and builds trust in our relationships. Epictetus put it bluntly, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. It's a reminder that arrogance can blind us while humility keeps us open to learning. When we let go of the need to always appear right or perfect, we create space for real progress. Take a moment to reflect on your own life. How might humility strengthen your relationships? Could it help you navigate conflicts with more grace or deepen your connections with others? The Stoics believed that humility wasn't a weakness, it was a strength, a quiet confidence that comes from knowing your true worth without needing to prove it to anyone else. Imagine this, you're standing in a long line at the grocery store, and the person ahead of you is taking forever. Your first instinct might be frustration, maybe even annoyance. But what if, instead of letting that feeling take over, you paused and asked yourself, what's the worst that could happen if I wait a little longer? This is where Stoic philosophy steps in, offering a powerful tool for cultivating patience, a virtue that can transform not just moments like these, but your entire approach to life. The Stoics, like Marcus Aurelius, believed that patience isn't just about waiting, it's about how you wait. He wrote in his meditations that many of the things we find frustrating, delays, setbacks, even other people's actions, are simply part of the natural flow of life. They're not inherently good or bad, it's our judgment of them that creates the struggle. By shifting our perspective, we can learn to endure these moments with grace, even finding value in them. One of the simplest yet most effective Stoic exercises for building patience is the practice of pausing before reacting. When something tests your patience, whether it's traffic, a missed deadline, or a difficult conversation, take a breath. Give yourself a moment to step back and ask, is my reaction going to improve this situation or make it worse? That small pause can be the difference between reacting impulsively and responding with intention. Another practical approach is to practice delayed gratification. This doesn't mean denying yourself joy or comfort, but rather embracing the idea that waiting can often lead to greater rewards. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "The greatest remedy for anger is delay." By intentionally delaying your response or resisting the urge to act impulsively, you train yourself to find peace in the process, not just the outcome. So here's a challenge for you. Think about one area in your life where patience feels like a struggle. Maybe it's waiting for a promotion, dealing with a slow-moving project, or even navigating a relationship. How might your experience change if you approached it with the Stoic mindset? Remember, patience isn't passive. It's an active choice to meet life's delays and setbacks with calm resilience. And in doing so, you're not just enduring, you're growing stronger. Holding onto anger only hurts you. It's a heavy burden, one that drains your energy and clouds your clarity. The Stoics understood this deeply. Epictetus, for instance, taught that resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. It's self-destructive and it keeps you chained to the past. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is a form of liberation, a way to reclaim your peace and move forward. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The best revenge is to be unlike him who performed the injury." What he meant was this: instead of letting someone else's actions dictate your emotions, rise above it. Forgiveness isn't about excusing bad behavior or forgetting harm. It's about refusing to let that harm control you any longer. It's a choice to prioritize your own mental strength over the temporary satisfaction of holding a grudge. Think about it in a modern context. Imagine a colleague makes a mistake that affects your project. You could dwell on their error, letting frustration build, or you could choose to forgive them. Not because they deserve it, but because you deserve to move on. Forgiveness isn't about them, it's about you. It's about freeing yourself from the weight of negativity so you can focus on what truly matters. Take a moment to reflect. Is there someone in your life you need to forgive? It doesn't have to be a grand gesture or even a conversation. Sometimes forgiveness is simply a shift in perspective, a decision to let go of what's holding you back. When you do, you'll find a sense of freedom that only comes from releasing resentment and embracing the strength of forgiveness. Let's talk about simplicity, something that feels almost revolutionary in today's world. Think about it. We're surrounded by endless choices, constant notifications, and a culture that tells us more is always better. But what if the key to mental strength isn't about adding more to your life, but taking things away? This is where Stoicism offers a timeless perspective. Stoics like Seneca believed that simplicity wasn't just a lifestyle choice, it was a path to freedom. He once wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more who is poor." In other words, true wealth isn't about what you own, it's about how little you need to feel content. So how can we apply this today? Start small. Maybe it's decluttering your home, cutting back on unnecessary commitments, or even taking a break from the endless scroll on social media. These aren't just practical steps, they're acts of mental strength. By removing distractions, you create space for what truly matters: your values, your relationships, and your peace of mind. Epictetus put it beautifully when he said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Take a moment to reflect on your own life. What's one thing you could let go of to make room for something more meaningful? It doesn't have to be drastic. Sometimes the smallest changes can lead to the biggest shifts in how we feel. Simplicity isn't about deprivation, it's about clarity. And in a world that's constantly pulling us in 100 directions, clarity is a superpower. What's one thing you've been avoiding out of fear? Maybe it's speaking up in a meeting, starting a new project, or even having a difficult conversation. Fear has a way of holding us back, but the Stoics believed that courage isn't the absence of fear, it's the decision to act despite it. Marcus Aurelius, one of history's most renowned Stoic thinkers, often reflected on the importance of facing challenges head-on. He wrote, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. In other words, the very obstacles we fear are often the stepping stones to growth. Think about it. Every time you avoid something out of fear, you reinforce the idea that it's too big or too difficult to overcome. But the Stoics would argue that fear is just an illusion, a mental barrier we create. Seneca, another great Stoic philosopher, put it this way: sometimes even to live is an act of courage. He wasn't talking about grand, dramatic gestures. He meant the small, everyday acts of bravery that add up over time. Like speaking your truth when it's easier to stay silent, or taking the first step toward a goal that feels just out of reach. Let's bring this into your life. What's one thing you've been putting off because it feels intimidating? Maybe it's as simple as reaching out to someone you admire, or as significant as starting a new career path. This week, challenge yourself to take one courageous step. It doesn't have to be huge. Even a small act of bravery can shift your mindset and build momentum. Remember, courage is like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets. So, what will your first step be? Wisdom is the foundation of a good life. This simple yet profound truth lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed that wisdom isn't just about accumulating knowledge, it's about understanding how to live well, how to navigate challenges with clarity, and how to align our actions with what truly matters. Epictetus, one of Stoicism's most influential teachers, often stressed the importance of lifelong learning. He saw wisdom as a continuous journey, not a destination. It's not about knowing everything, but about being open to growth, to questioning, and to refining our understanding of the world and ourselves. One practical way to cultivate wisdom is through reading philosophy, particularly the works of Stoic thinkers like Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus. Their writings are timeless guides offering insights into human nature, resilience, and the art of living. Marcus Aurelius, in his Meditations, wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." This reminds us that what we feed our minds shapes who we become. By immersing ourselves in thoughtful, reflective works, we can gradually shift our perspective and deepen our ability to see the world with greater clarity. Another powerful practice is seeking mentorship or guidance from those who have walked the path before us. The Stoics valued learning from others, whether through direct conversation or by studying their lives. Finding someone whose wisdom you admire, whether a teacher, a friend, or even a historical figure, can provide invaluable lessons and inspiration. It's not about blindly following their path, but about reflecting on their experiences and integrating what resonates into your own life. Take a moment to consider how you might grow wiser. What books could you read that challenge your thinking? Who in your life embodies the kind of wisdom you aspire to? Or perhaps, how can you create moments of quiet reflection to process your experiences and learn from them? Wisdom grows when we make space for it, when we commit to being students of life, and when we approach each day with curiosity and humility. This is the Stoic way, a path not just to knowledge, but to a life of meaning and purpose. Imagine you're walking down the street and you see someone being treated unfairly. Maybe a coworker is being overlooked for their contributions, or a stranger is being harassed. What do? It's easy to feel powerless or to convince ourselves that it's not our place to intervene, but the Stoics would challenge that mindset. For them, justice wasn't just a lofty ideal, it was a daily practice, a cornerstone of living a virtuous life. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, often emphasized that justice begins with recognizing the inherent worth of every person. To act justly, he argued, is to honor that worth in both our actions and our decisions. So, how do we put this into practice? Justice isn't just about grand gestures or sweeping societal changes. It's often found in the small, everyday choices we make. It might mean speaking up when someone is being treated unfairly, even if it's uncomfortable. It could be as simple as choosing honesty in a situation where it would be easier to lie. Or perhaps it's about ensuring that we treat everyone we encounter with the same level of respect and dignity, regardless of their status or background. Epictetus, another influential Stoic thinker, put it this way: "What is the first business of one who practices philosophy? To rid himself of self-conceit." For it is impossible for anyone to begin to learn what he thinks he already knows. In other words, practicing justice requires humility. It asks us to set aside our ego, to admit when we've been wrong, and to approach every situation with an open mind and a willingness to do what's right, not just what's easy or convenient. But justice isn't just about external actions. It's also about cultivating an internal sense of fairness. Ask yourself, are there areas in your own life where you might be acting unjustly, even unintentionally? Maybe it's a habit of judging others too quickly or failing to give someone the benefit of the doubt. Stoicism teaches us to turn that critical eye inward, to examine our own biases and behaviors, and to strive for alignment between our values and our actions. Ultimately, Stoic justice is about taking responsibility, not just for ourselves, but for the well-being of those around us. It's a call to action, a reminder that every choice we make has the potential to either promote fairness or perpetuate inequality. So, the next time you're faced with a situation that demands justice, big or small, consider what the Stoics might do. How can you act with integrity? How can you contribute to a more just community? These are the questions that can guide us toward a life of purpose and virtue. Where in your life do you struggle with balance? It's a question worth asking because imbalance can creep into almost any aspect of our lives, whether it's overworking, overindulging, or even overthinking. This is where the Stoic principle of temperance comes into play. Temperance, or moderation in all things, is about finding that sweet spot between excess and deficiency. It's not about deprivation, but about self-control and intentional living. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's most famous practitioners, often reflected on the importance of temperance in his personal writings. He saw it as a way to maintain inner peace and avoid being ruled by external desires or impulses. For instance, he might have asked himself, "Am I working to live or living to work?" When reflecting on his duties as emperor, this kind of self-questioning helps us recognize when we're tipping too far in one direction. Take work-life balance, for example. Many of us feel the pressure to constantly be productive, but temperance reminds us that rest and leisure are just as vital. Or consider how we manage our impulses, whether it's scrolling endlessly on our phones, overeating, or reacting impulsively in heated moments. Temperance encourages us to pause, reflect, and choose actions that align with our values rather than our momentary cravings. Seneca, another Stoic philosopher, warned about the dangers of excess. He wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." This insight is powerful because it shifts the focus from what we lack to how we relate to what we already have. Temperance isn't about having less, it's about wanting wisely. So where can you practice more temperance in your own life? Maybe it's setting boundaries with work, limiting screen time, or even curbing emotional reactions that don't serve you. The key is to start small, identify one area where imbalance exists, and take a step toward moderation. It's not about perfection but progress. By practicing temperance, you're not just building mental strength, you're reclaiming control over your life, one balanced choice at a time. Failure, it's something we all face at some point, whether it's a missed opportunity, a personal mistake, or a goal that feels out of reach. And when it happens, it's easy to feel stuck, to dwell on what went wrong, and to let that stress weigh us down. But here's the thing, the Stoics saw failure differently. For them, it wasn't an end, it was an opportunity to grow stronger. This is where resilience comes in, and it's one of the most powerful tools Stoicism offers us for navigating life's inevitable setbacks. Take Epictetus, for example. Born into slavery, he faced hardships most of us can't even imagine. Yet he didn't let those challenges define him. Instead, he taught that resilience isn't about avoiding pain or failure, it's about how we respond to them. He famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." In other words, resilience isn't something we're born with, it's something we build through practice and perspective. So, how do we start cultivating this kind of resilience? One way is by reframing challenges. Instead of seeing a setback as a failure, try viewing it as a lesson. What can you learn from it? How can it help you grow? Another practice is focusing on progress, not perfection. Resilience isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up, even if it's just one small step at a time. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, put it beautifully when he said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." This idea reminds us that obstacles aren't roadblocks, they're part of the path. Every challenge we face is an opportunity to build resilience, to strengthen our character, and to move forward with greater clarity and purpose. Now take a moment to reflect. How do you handle setbacks in your own life? Do you see them as obstacles or as opportunities to grow? Building resilience isn't about ignoring the pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about choosing to rise above it, one small step at a time. And with each challenge you face, you're not just surviving, you're becoming stronger, wiser, and more resilient than ever before. The present moment is all we truly have. This simple truth lies at the heart of Stoic philosophy, and it's a reminder that the past is gone, the future is uncertain, and the only reality we can act upon is the one right in front of us. The Stoics, like Seneca, understood that mindfulness, being fully present, isn't just a practice, it's a way of living. It's about grounding yourself in the here and now, free from the distractions of regret or worry. Seneca once wrote, "You are living as if destined to live forever. Your own frailty never occurs to you." He wasn't just talking about the shortness of life. He was pointing out how often we drift through our days on autopilot, barely noticing the moments we're living. Mindfulness, as the Stoics saw it, is about breaking that cycle. It's about paying attention to what's happening right now, whether it's the taste of your morning coffee or the sound of the wind outside. One powerful way to cultivate this awareness is through simple exercises. Try mindful eating, for example. Instead of rushing through a meal, take a moment to really notice the flavors, textures, and aromas. Or spend a few minutes observing your thoughts without judgment. When a worry or frustration arises, don't push it away, just acknowledge it, like watching a cloud pass by in the sky. Epictetus put it beautifully when he said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." By practicing mindfulness, you train yourself to respond to life's challenges with clarity and calm, rather than being swept away by emotions. The beauty of mindfulness is that it doesn't require any special tools or training. You can start small, weaving it into your daily routine. Take a deep breath before answering a stressful email. Notice the sensation of your feet hitting the ground as you walk. These moments of presence might seem minor, but over time they add up. They help you build mental resilience, allowing you to face life's ups and downs with a steadier hand. So why not give it a try today? The present moment is waiting, and it's the only one you'll ever truly have. What does true contentment mean to you? Is it the accumulation of possessions, achievements, or external validation? Or is it something quieter, something that lives within? The Stoics believed contentment wasn't something to chase in the outside world, but a state of mind to cultivate within ourselves. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most famous Stoic philosophers, wrote extensively about the value of inner peace. He saw contentment not as the absence of challenges, but as the ability to remain unshaken by them. It's about finding satisfaction in what you already have rather than endlessly pursuing what you don't. Seneca, another Stoic thinker, put it simply, true happiness is to enjoy the present without anxious dependence upon the future. Contentment, in this sense, isn't about waiting for life to align perfectly before you can feel at ease. It's about embracing the present moment with all its imperfections and finding joy in the small, often overlooked details of life. Think about it. How often do we pause to appreciate the warmth of sunlight on our skin, the laughter of a loved one, or the quiet stillness of a morning? These moments, though fleeting, are where contentment often resides. One powerful Stoic practice for cultivating contentment is learning to let go of comparison. In a world that constantly pushes us to measure ourselves against others, Stoicism reminds us that true fulfillment comes from within. When we stop comparing our lives to others' highlight reels, we free ourselves from unnecessary dissatisfaction. Instead, we can focus on what we value most: our own growth, relationships, and inner harmony. Here's a challenge for you. Take a moment to reflect on how you can cultivate more contentment in your daily life. What small joys are you overlooking? What comparisons can you release? By practicing gratitude for what you already have and embracing the present moment, you're not just building mental strength, you're creating a life rich with meaning and peace. Picture this: you're walking down the street and you see someone struggling to carry a heavy load. Without a second thought, you step in to help. That small act of kindness costs you nothing, but it makes a world of difference to the other person. This is generosity in its purest form, giving without expecting anything in return. And it's a practice the Stoics held in high regard. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic philosophers, taught that true generosity isn't about grand gestures or recognition. It's about recognizing our shared humanity and acting from a place of genuine care. He believed that when we give freely, we not only uplift others but also strengthen our own character. It's a reminder that we're all connected and that helping others is, in a way, helping ourselves. So how can we practice this Stoic virtue in our daily lives? It doesn't have to be complicated. Start small. Offer a listening ear to a friend in need. Volunteer your time for a cause you care about. Or simply smile at a stranger who looks like they're having a rough day. These acts, though seemingly minor, ripple outward, creating a culture of kindness and compassion. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king, once said, "What we do now echoes in eternity." When we choose to be generous, we leave a lasting impact not just on others, but on our own sense of purpose and fulfillment. There's a quiet joy that comes from knowing you've made someone's day a little brighter, even if no one else notices. Take a moment to reflect. How can you weave more generosity into your life? Maybe it's through small, intentional acts, or perhaps by dedicating time to a larger cause. Whatever it is, remember that every act of giving, no matter how small, strengthens your mental resilience and deepens your connection to the world around you. Discipline is the bridge between goals and accomplishment. It's the quiet force that turns aspirations into reality, and the Stoics understood this better than most. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, often spoke about the necessity of self-control and consistency. He believed that discipline wasn't just about resisting temptation. It was about aligning your actions with your values day after day, even when it's difficult. In his writings, he compared discipline to a muscle. The more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. So, how can we cultivate this kind of discipline in our own lives? Start small. Create daily routines that reinforce your priorities. Maybe it's waking up at the same time every morning, dedicating a specific hour to focused work, or committing to a regular exercise routine. The key is consistency. It's not about grand gestures, it's about showing up even when you don't feel like it. As Epictetus once said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Self-mastery, he argued, is the ultimate reward of discipline, a sense of freedom that comes from knowing you're in control of your choices. Think about your own life for a moment. Where could a little more discipline make a difference? Is there a goal you've been putting off or a habit you've been meaning to break? The Stoics remind us that discipline isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Every small step you take builds momentum, and over time, those steps add up. So, take a moment to reflect. What's one commitment you can make today, right now, to strengthen your discipline? It doesn't have to be monumental. Even the smallest act of consistency can set you on the path to greater self-mastery. Have you ever found yourself pushing back against something you couldn't control? Whether it's a sudden change in plans, an unexpected setback, or even a difficult person in your life. That resistance, that urge to fight reality, is something we've all experienced. But here's the thing, the Stoics believed that this resistance only creates more suffering. Instead, they taught the power of acceptance not as resignation, but as a way to find peace and freedom in the face of life's inevitable ups and downs. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's most famous practitioners, often reflected on this idea. He wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this and you will find strength. What he's pointing to here is the simple truth that so much of what happens in life is beyond our control. The weather, other people's actions, even the passage of time, none of these are up to us, but what we can control is how we respond. Acceptance, in the Stoic sense, is about shifting our focus from what we can't change to what we can, our own thoughts, attitudes, and actions. Epictetus, another key Stoic philosopher, put it this way: freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control. Think about that for a moment. When we stop trying to force the world to conform to our expectations, we free ourselves from frustration and disappointment. Acceptance doesn't mean we stop caring or striving. It means we stop wasting energy on what we can't change, and that's where true strength lies. So how can you start practicing acceptance in your own life? One simple exercise is to let go of expectations. Notice when you're holding onto a rigid idea of how something should be and ask yourself, is this helping me or is it causing me stress? Another powerful tool is reframing challenges. Instead of seeing a problem as something to resist, try viewing it as an opportunity to grow. Maybe that delayed flight isn't just an inconvenience, it's a chance to practice patience. Maybe that difficult conversation isn't just uncomfortable, it's a moment to strengthen your communication skills. The beauty of acceptance is that it's not about giving up, it's about stepping into a mindset of clarity and empowerment. By embracing reality as it is, you open yourself up to new possibilities and a deeper sense of calm. So the next time life throws you a curveball, try meeting it with acceptance. You might just find that it's not the obstacle you thought it was, it's the key to your own resilience. What's one thing you've always wanted to learn? Maybe it's a skill, a language, or even a deeper understanding of the world around you. For the Stoics, curiosity wasn't just a passing interest, it was a vital part of living a meaningful life. Seneca, one of the great Stoic philosophers, believed that the pursuit of knowledge was one of the highest human endeavors. He saw curiosity as a way to expand our minds, challenge our assumptions, and ultimately grow as individuals. But how does this translate into daily life? Think about it. Every time you seek to understand something new, you're not just gathering information, you're training your mind to be open, flexible, and resilient. Curiosity helps us break free from the routines that can make life feel stagnant. It encourages us to ask questions, to wonder, and to explore. And in doing so, we become more adaptable, more capable of handling whatever life throws our way. One practical way to cultivate curiosity is by taking up a new hobby or skill. It doesn't have to be something grand or complicated, even small. everyday explorations can spark a sense of wonder. Maybe it's learning to cook a new recipe, picking up an instrument, or simply reading about a topic you know nothing about. The key is to approach it with an open mind, free from the fear of failure or judgment. As Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "The universe is change, our life is what our thoughts make it." Embracing curiosity means embracing change, and in that change we find growth. So take a moment to reflect. How can you nurture your own curiosity today? What's one step you can take to explore something new? Whether it's asking a question, diving into a book, or trying your hand at something unfamiliar, the act of seeking knowledge is a powerful way to build mental strength. After all, as the Stoics remind us, the joy of discovery lies not just in the answers we find, but in the journey itself. Authenticity is the foundation of a meaningful life. This isn't just a modern idea, it's a principle deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy. The Stoics believed that living in alignment with your values rather than chasing external validation or societal approval is the key to inner peace and strength. Epictetus, one of the great Stoic teachers, often reminded his students that true freedom comes from being true to oneself. He said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid." In other words, authenticity requires courage, the courage to stand firm in your beliefs, even when others might not understand or agree. So, how can we practice authenticity in our own lives? Start by reflecting on your core values. What truly matters to you? What principles guide your decisions? Take time to write these down and ask yourself if your daily actions align with them. Another powerful practice is to express yourself honestly, even in small ways. It could be as simple as saying no when you mean no, or sharing your thoughts openly instead of hiding behind what you think others want to hear. Seneca once wrote, "It takes courage to live honestly." This is because authenticity often means facing discomfort in being vulnerable, in standing apart, or in admitting when we've strayed from our values. But the reward is a life of integrity, one where you can look in the mirror and know you've stayed true to who you are. Now, take a moment to reflect. Are there areas in your life where you've been holding back, pretending to be someone you're not? What would it look like to step into greater authenticity, even in small, manageable ways? Remember, it's not about perfection, it's about progress. Every step toward living authentically is a step toward building the mental strength the Stoics so deeply admired. Have you ever noticed how much of our energy is spent trying to meet the expectations of others? Whether it's at work, in relationships, or even on social media, the constant need for approval can feel like a weight we're forever carrying. The Stoics, however, offer a radical alternative: inner freedom. This isn't about rejecting the world around us, but about reclaiming control over our own minds and emotions. Marcus Aurelius, one of Stoicism's most famous practitioners, once wrote that the key to peace lies in understanding what is within our power and what isn't. And the truth is, other people's opinions, they're not within our control. Inner freedom, as the Stoics taught, is about detaching from external outcomes and focusing instead on what truly matters: our own thoughts, values, and actions. Epictetus put it perfectly when he said, "Freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things that lie beyond our control." Imagine what it would feel like to stop worrying about whether others approve of you and instead focus on living in alignment with your own principles. This is the essence of Stoic self-reliance. So how can you start cultivating this kind of freedom in your own life? One practical step is to practice letting go of the need for external validation. When you catch yourself seeking approval, pause and ask, does this align with my values, or am I just trying to please someone else? Another way is to set internal goals, things like developing patience, practicing gratitude, or improving your focus rather than chasing external rewards. These are goals no one can take away from you, and they're entirely within your power to achieve. take a moment to reflect. What would it look like for you to embrace more inner freedom? What external pressures could you release, even just a little, to create more space for what truly matters to you? The Stoics remind us that true freedom isn't found in the world around us, it's found within. And the more we practice this mindset, the lighter and more purposeful our lives can become. As we come to the end of this journey through the 30 Stoic practices, take a moment to reflect on just how powerful these tools can be when woven together. Each one, whether it's focusing on what's within your control, practicing gratitude, or embracing discomfort, is a thread in the fabric of mental strength. Alone, they're useful, but combined, they become a philosophy for life, a way to navigate challenges with clarity, resilience, and purpose. Stoicism isn't just an ancient idea, it's a practical guide for the modern world, offering timeless wisdom for anyone looking to build a stronger, more grounded mind. Seneca once said, "It is not because things are difficult that we do not dare, it is because we do not dare that they are difficult." This journey of self-improvement isn't about perfection or overnight transformation. It's about daring to take one small step, then another. So, as you leave this video, don't feel overwhelmed by the wealth of practices we've explored. Instead, choose just one to start with. Maybe it's journaling your thoughts each evening, or reminding yourself of what's truly within your control when life feels chaotic. Start small, stay consistent, and observe how it shapes your perspective over time. Stoicism is a philosophy of action, not just contemplation. So, what will your first step be? Let's keep this conversation going. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Which practice resonates most with you, and how do you plan to incorporate it into your life? And if you found value in this video, don't forget to subscribe for more insights on living with strength, wisdom, and purpose. Thank you for joining me on this exploration of Stoic principles. Here's to your journey of growth, one step at a time.